We good to start? Awesome. Welcome, everyone, to the round 6 of the ARC League. This is round 6 of the Winter Championship for 2021, presented by Driver 61. My name is Eric Durace. I am currently the safety car, and will be doing the safety car for the rest of the event. A little bit of an update as to what happened. Qualifying has started for the past 12 minutes. Selman Curtis is leading with a 109.7, followed by Kieran Fox 109.9, Elegance, Only Rye, Legs, Zekrov, Brandon Gobes, Cricket Sushi, Tommy Guns, and Rosefest is the top 10. We are currently on board with Rosefest. Surrounding the final corner, the banking quite extreme in real life, quite scary in the game. If you run wide, you tend to go flying. As we see a car at the exit of turn 1. On board now with Kieran as we are going around the first turn. He's going on a formation lap in order to warm up the tires and prepare for his hot lap. Looking to improve by at least 2/10. Elegance P4. He was in a good position to win last time out 2 weeks ago. Ended up doing a 2-stop and ended up losing quite a lot of time. On board with Kieran now as he rounds the very terrifying turn 6. You can go too wide by there, but you need to be brave. Turn 7 comes up very quickly, very unsteady, and then you have to get slowed down for the turn 8. Turn 9 comes at you very quickly. It's slightly slower than the previous corner, but you need to get on the power at the right time in order to not lose traction. Now you speed up the small crest, and you go back down into the awkward complex. Rounding the final corner in order to start his lap. We're approaching turn 1. Fox. No mistake. Okay, going through the scary turn 6 now. Car tends to understeer a little bit at the exit. You want to be careful. Traffic line through there. As he rounds the line, around the outside, very smooth, getting good acceleration, going down. Slightly up on his previous delta, slightly down 0.2 of a second. Runs wide at the penultimate corner, probably won't make up the time. As he rounds the final banked corner, he improves by almost 0.2 of a second. Still P2 as Selman Curtis improves further to a 109.5. The best lap so far set was a 109.3 in practice. Only Rye finishing the lap, 110.2, improving by 1 or 2 positions. Coming out of the pits, you can see Selman Curtis on board with the Metaspree car, as he has a slight fishtailing moment at turn 3, and it turns into a spin, running wide at the exit. Not ideal, very easy to do in these cars. Brandon Gobes on board now, going through turn 4, accelerating up the hill. The car becomes a little bit unsteady. He's slightly up on his delta. Could he improve from P6 upwards? A 1:10.8 is currently his fastest lap in the server. As Cameron improves a 1:11.9 to P12. Let's hope Brandon's teammate doesn't get in the way. Perfect. Now, going through the penultimate complex, the car likes to get very unsteady. Quite a lot of camber at the apex of the second part. As we arrive to the final corner, slower in the first part. Now accelerate cleanly at the exit. Accelerate, keeping a tight line over there in order to not lose speed going over the crest. As he improves to 1:10.6, maintaining P6. Yeah, only half a tenth up, losing a bit of time at the exit of turn 4, going to the sequence of turn 5 and 6. Still slightly up on his delta. There's 30 seconds left in the session. Drivers are going to try to get a lap in as early as possible. Only Rye approaching the final few corners. Can he dislodge Elegance from P3? Half a tenth down, tenth down. Doesn't look like he's going to make it. Only able to complete P4. Nikora, P11. Will he be able to improve his lap time? Half a second up, 0.6 up, rounding the final corner. Will he make it past P6? P8, 1:11.1. As Lord Raptor, the last driver on track, 0.3 down on his best. Can he make up the time in the final few corners? He loses time, half a second down. Rounding the final corner. Flat out, dirty air doesn't actually affect you all that much, so we can expect close racing down to turn 1, especially as we see Lord Raptor coming into the pits, deciding to abandon his lap. The pit lane comes very quickly, so getting a time penalty for speeding in the pits is incredibly easy to do around here. And that's qualifying. The positions, Selman Curtis on pole with a 1:09.5. Second place, Kieran Fox, followed closely by Elegance. Only Right, P4, Leg Smith, P5, Brandon Goobs, P6, Zetrov, P7, Decora, P8, Cricket Sushi, P9, and Rosefest rounding out the top 10. Tommy Guns, disappointed with P11, but content to start on the free tire choice. Cameron on P12, McNeil P13, Lord Raptor 14, Thing P15, Dabro 16, Yard Meat, rounding out the field, P17. Now we're waiting for the session to roll over. It'll usually take about a minute or so from this point. As we're rolling over to the race time. 30 seconds left on the timer until the start of the race. There will be a 1-minute countdown until the start with the cars on the grid. The AC lights will be the ones that we're waiting for. As we roll over to race start, the grid is forming up. As we're getting ready for the lights. And lights out, and away we go. As we see Selman Curtis getting a good launch off the line, going all the way to turn one, quite a lot of bashing at the back of the field. Looks like a clean turn one. Clean sequence afterwards. A little bit of a spin at the back of the field. As we see the Cora recovering from a spin, racing up front. Elegance racing all the way down to the penultimate section. Not being able to get a move in. Ooh, and he spins Fox around. Elegance causing Fox to drop down the field. Fox is recovering. Down to P8. As we see Cricket Sushi catching up and Charles Bertrand having an issue. And we have a few cars off. They were pretty close. We're going to have to check the replay after the race. As Selman Curtis charged away in P1, Charles Bertrand currently following P15. Extra in the Red Bull, number 2 from Mark Webber in 2012. Following Rosefest very closely. Hopefully he won't be messed up by the dirty air following the following section. Pretty clean at the moment, as Miguel Soto leaves the server. Obviously disappointed by having an unfortunate start. Tommy Guns with a really good start, going up from P11 to P5. Rosefest hunting him down. The following sequence, you go quick in, then you have to slow down earlier than you think, but later than you should. And now you accelerate up, going into the left-hander at turn 10. The front end wants to understeer on power, but hopefully you stay close enough to get DRS this lap in order to be able to get closer in the penultimate sequence in order to potentially make a move down to turn 1. As Kieran Fox gets past Zetrov, up to P7. As we get DRS down the straight, Tommy Guns will be unleashing all the ERS potential that he has. Stays in front, outwitting the draft and the DRS at Rosefest's fingers. He has to be careful, he might run out of battery juice in not too long defending in this manner. Rosefest not getting the cleanest of exits. Kieran Fox right behind him, catching up ever so slightly as we go down to turn 6 and turn 7. Rosefest keeping a tighter line as we see a car that spun. That was only right, dropping out of P3. Brandon Gubbs promoted to P3 from his teammate, Rosefest, and that'll up to P5. Fox recovering to P6. As only Rye recovers, he's down to P15, waiting for traffic to pass by. Tommy Guns rounding the final corner with Rosefest and Fox in close proximity. Fox with DRS getting around the outside of Rosefest going down to turn 1. Rosefest using up too much energy defending earlier in the lap, unable to make up the difference. As we see Fox rounding out turn 4 into turn 5. Car understeers wide at the banked apex and he's right on Tommy Guns' tail. Further back in the field, Flyboy and Dabro are racing very closely. Kieran Fox getting close to Tommy Guns. Tommy Guns hoping he can be consistent enough through the final sequence. Rosefest locking up behind. As we approach the final 2 corners, Kieran getting a good exit running wide, staying in the draft of Tommy Guns. Tommy has been defending quite third lead during the whole first part of the race. Kieran catching up, but not close enough as Tommy Guns takes the outside line. Kieran gets closer but can't make the move stick. As Tommy Guns spins at turn 1, gifting Fox P4. Tommy Guns recovering down to P8, not too eventful. Probably has some damage from the wall. We'll have to repair at his pit stop. As Brandon Gobes runs wide at turn 7, gifting Elegance P2. Elegance making a mistake earlier on with Fox right on their tails. Selman Curtis in the lead by 14 seconds from Elegance. Rounding out the penultimate section, coming up right behind Elegance. Elegance will try to defend as much as he can, but Brandon is really close behind him. The draft will be increasingly powerful as they go further down the straight. DRS wide open, and Elegance enters the pits. Elegance going for an early stop, loses positions. Brandon now has the task of trying to mitigate any undercut potential that Elegance might get, hoping Elegance comes out in traffic. As Elegance exits the pits, he's behind legs, but well ahead of McNeil. Shouldn't have any issues. The undercut may work to keep an eye on. Dabro catching up to Nick Cameron. Cameron should be struggling on his tires, starting on the softer compound. Dabro starting on the hards, should be in a good pace at the moment. The C1 is very consistent around Zandvoort. DRS open. As we approach the penultimate section, not close enough, but Cameron runs wide. Losing a little bit of time at the apex. Tommy Guns ahead. Wary of the cars behind. As we go down the start-finish straight now. DRS wide open as we approach turn 1. Not close enough to the car in front. As Cameron is charging down to turn 7. Tommy Guns pulling a bit of a lead. The dirty air quite powerful around this circuit. Staying close is quite difficult. As Dabro closes up the gap in the braking zones, Tommy Guns looks to have clean exits. Cameron struggling a little bit. Tommy Guns is right behind. Dabro looking for a move but can't get it done. Keeping it tight. Right on the apex. Apex not the cleanest and loses a little bit of time, but going around the final 2 corners, loses a bit of time. Not able to make the move stick as Cameron has DRS on Tommy Guns. Going on to turn 1, not close enough as Tommy takes the wider line through there. You lose a little bit of time on the turn-in, but it does help with the exit. It allows you to take a less sharp line, cleaner throttle applications. As we have Dabro going around the outside, not able to make a move stick. Really close at the exit, going down the crest and up the hill. Turn 7, not close enough to make a move. Loses a little bit of time at the exit. Up ahead, alternate race. Fox is catching up to Brandon for P2. As Lord Raptor has a crash, Cora comes behind him at turn 4. Delman Curtis avoiding any unfortunate incidents. As Cameron is a lot closer to Tommy Guns now, going down all the way to turn 1. Tommy goes to the outside to defend, as Cameron dives down the inside and makes a mistake, but they touch and they crash. Turn 1 collision. As they try to recover, they're blocking the track, and they collide again, but they're both able to recover. As Tommy Gunn stays ahead of Nick Cameron, and Dabro making up 2 positions in the meantime. Fox catching up in the penultimate sequence, can't actually stay close enough. Brandon has been doing quite a lot of practice, getting quite good lap times for this event. Behind, Cricket Sushi catching up to Rosefest. As we see Fox coming down to turn 1, he's getting closer, closer, closer. Can't make the move stick, going down to turn 1, takes the wider line. Brandon a little bit unsteady at the apex, manages to stay in front. As behind, we have Cricket and Rosefest. Going for a move, not sticking. If we go on board with Salman Curtis, he overtakes Caleb Short. Caleb getting out of the way nicely. Caleb has a history of running into his rivals as they lap him. Very clean from short today. Congratulations to him. As we go through the final sequence of corners, Brandon getting a bit of a gap. Sufficiently in front of Fox. Fox opens up DRS. As Decora leaves the session, unable to recover and disappointed with the result from his collision earlier on. As Fox very, very close, you have Lord Raptor getting out of the way, allowing P2 and P3 to lap him cleanly. As Gobes takes a wide line in to get a cleaner exit, trying his best to defend against Fox. Fox behind, catching up, but not able to make any headwinds. Coming up to the penultimate sequence, Fox gets closer, but is always slightly later on the throttle than Brandon. Can't make the move stick, can't get close enough. Further behind, Nick Cameron catching up very closely to Leg Smith. Following very closely, Cameron had a bit of a moment a short while ago, lost a little bit of time. As we follow Fox, going to the scary turn 7 and turn 8 sequence now. The front end wants to understeer on you. You have to force it to hold the apex line. Getting close, but power understeer at the exit. He's getting closer. DRS open, allowing him to catch up the gap. As they approach the apex of the penultimate sequence, turn 13. Loses a little bit of time at the exit, trying to fight wheel spin. A little bit too far to get the benefit from the draft. DRS still open. Selman Curtis now with a 20-second gap to Gobes. He has nearly a pit stop in hand. As we're approaching the pit stop phase, Elegance already made a stop, down to P16. Catching up to Charles Bertrand, P14. As Fox still catching up to the back of Brandon. Runs wide at the early part, sticks it in third. Helps the traction at the exit. Drivers now will start to consider shifting from the softer compounds to the medium or the harder compound in the pit stop. As Brandon dives into the pits and Fox follows him. Clean pit entry. Elegance getting a cut warning. Kieran getting a 5-second speeding warning. 5-second penalty. It'll be added to his overall race time. Hopefully he can make up the time in the second half of the race. As Kieran comes out right behind Brandon. Sushi, P3, catching up to Rosefest, P2. They're now putting the hammer down to try and make up a bit of a gap. Which one will pit first? Which one will get the benefit from the fresh tires? As Fox really close to Brandon, coming to the scary turn 7. Needs to leave a little bit of a gap. Fresh tires working very well. looking to try and take advantage as early as possible as he catches up to the very slow turn 9 sequence. Going down to turn 10, very close. DRS open, as Liam McNeil gets a 5-second penalty for speeding. As Cricket enters the pits, looking to undercut Rosefest. Dabro inherits P3, Brandon Gobes. Brandon runs wide, and Brandon gives the position to Kieran. Kieran inherits P8. Brandon down to P9. Brandon losing positions, gifting the position to Fox. His aim is to try and keep it in a 5-second interval in order to be able to make as much of an advantage as he can when Kieran gets his penalty. Selman Curtis still maintaining his lead, catching up to Zetrov, P10, in order to lap him. Tommy Guns up to P3 as Rosefest enters the pits. Rosefest exits the pits. Tommy Guns getting clean on the exit with legs right behind him. Cricket Sushi, the live timing's not working optimally. As Tommy Guns in P3 maintains a good position. Cricket Sushi behind, a lap down, trying to make up as much time as Tommy Guns spins at the penultimate section. Loses time, runs on the gravel to try and rejoin. As Charles Bertrand, 3-second penalty for illegal DRS. Bertrand right behind, trying to take advantage at the exit going into the final corner. Bertrand P16 as Tommy Guns runs wide. His tires have reached the end of their life. He might be interested in looking to come into the pits as he stays out for another lap. Tommy Guns promoted up to P2 as Selman Curtis comes into the pits. Dabro takes the lead. Time loss and penalty for a pit stop quite high around this circuit, approaching 40 seconds compared to most. As Parminger Singh ends up retiring from the race, disappointed with being in such a low position. Lord Raptor a lap down, trying to catch up as Tommy Gunn spins once again at the penultimate section. His tires are really reaching the end of his life. He's going to want to stay out there a little bit longer if he wants to make the strategy work. Charles Bertrand behind. As Charles Bertrand has the DRS going down the main straight. Not close enough to make a move. Selman Curtis, 17 seconds behind. Can he make up the time by the time Tommy comes in to make a pit stop? As Charles Bertrand taking an alternate line, tighter line, softer tires at the exit, staying close, staying in the draft. Is he able to make it up to turn 7? Oh, still a little bit too far behind. As Selman Curtis sets fastest lap of 1:12 flat, fastest of this race. 3 seconds faster than everyone else's race pace. Zetrov behind in P8, trying to catch up to Charles. Charles with DRS up ahead. As Tommy Gunn spins once more, gifting Charles Bertrand free track position. Elegance P13 also makes up in track ground. Nick Cameron P11. Nick Cameron slowing down to let the leader Dabro come through. Tommy Gunn's coming into the pits this lap. Tires are extremely worn. Selman Curtis promoted up to P2. As Dabro in the lead. Nick Cameron, 3-second penalty for illegal DRS. Dabro rounding the final corner. Tommy Guns maintaining P3 at the exit of the pits, just overtaken by Fox now, setting a 1:13.1. Solomon Curtis overtaking cars as Caleb Short spins at P8, taking out Dolly Ride, P9. Fox up to P3, catching up to Selman. 22 seconds behind. Selman making up good time in race pace. As Liam McNeil comes into the pits, Caleb Short gets more damage. As we have Legs spun down the start-finish straight, driving the wrong way. Waiting for traffic to come. Tommy Guns promoted up to P9. More cars coming. Kieran Fox P3. As Legs slowly gets back into the pit lane to repair damage. As we are with Cricket Sushi rounding out the final corner, a little bit unsteady, running wide. Rosefest in front, setting a good pace, pulling away slightly each lap. Dabro still out in his initial set. Zero stops. 40 seconds in front of P2, Selman Curtis. Behind is Fox, 20 seconds behind. As Dabro runs wide at the exit of the penultimate section, gifting track position to Brandon Gobes. Dabro really struggling on his tires now. As he approaches the start-finish straight, he pulls into the pits, relinquishing his long stint, 22 laps. 14 laps to go on his final stint. He can do it on the softer C3 compound. As Salman Curtis, 45 seconds behind, rounds out the turn 11 sequence, going to turn 12 and turn 13. Will he catch up and be able to take the position? Dabro exiting the pits, runs wide at the exit, damages his front wing. That isn't part of the plan. As he exits turn 4, maintains the lead. Salman Curtis behind. Dabro just touching the grass slightly. He's currently on the C2 compound. Should get him comfortably to the end of the race. As Selman Curtis takes the lead from Dabro. Liam McNeil, 3 seconds for illegal DRS. Kieran Fox, ahead of Tommy Guns, promoted up to P2. Brandon goes P3, Dabro down to P4. Charles Bertrand getting out of the way for Kieran, going off the circuits. As we're on board with Salman rounding the final corners. Traffic ahead of him, it's Leg Smith. As Kieran gets past Liam McNeil, lapped car. Feldman setting fastest lap, 1:11.9, beating his personal best by a few hundredths of a second. Further behind, Cricket Sushi, staying within 2 seconds of Rosefest, not able to close up the gap. As they round the final few corners, going down the start-finish straight, gap increases. Brandon Dobbs just out of reach of Fox. 10 seconds behind with Fox's penalty, not able to make up the difference. Cricket Sushi getting a clean exit, charging to the scary turn 7. Navigated cleanly. Rosefest not making mistakes, but is slightly closer this lap. Rosefest losing a little bit of time. Under 1 second going into the penultimate section as Rosefest locks up the left front slightly going into the final sequence. Sushi catching up closely, rounding out the final corner. Within less than a second, DRS will be open this lap. As Rosefest hugs the inside wall to try and break the draft, running back wide the normal racing line. Rosefest runs wide slightly. Sushi keeping close within half a second. Rosefest on the softer compound, reaching the point where he's starting to struggle with tire wear. Sushi keeping a much more consistent grip on his mediums. Selman Curtis fastest lap in 1:11.7, beating his previous best. Looks on par to gain the extra point for fastest lap, currently faster than anyone else in the field. P2 Fox with a fastest lap of a 1:12.9. Tommy Guns battling, getting past Zetrov as Elegance enters the pits once more. And he loses the rear turn 5, crashes slightly. Doesn't look to have damaged the car too much, but loses position to Zetrov. McNeil, 3-second penalty for illegal DRS. As we have Cricket Sushi diving down the inside of Rosefest, getting up the position. As Cricket on his harder compound, a little bit more consistent. As Rosefest, furious for making a mistake and letting Cricket go by at turn 1, and then the preceding section at turn 7. Catching up as close as he can. Going into the penultimate sequence, Rosefest. Luke struggling a little bit with his rear tires on traction, but has slightly better front end grip at low speeds. On his hard compound tires, the C1s, very consistent. They do lack top end performance, but are more consistent over a stint compared to the C2s that Cricket is using. Rosefest still close behind, catching up at the scary turn 7. As they catch lap traffic, Liam McNeil has been struggling the entire race with tire imbalance. As he locks up and runs wide, keeps down the inside, but lets Cricket and Rosefest by. As Tommy Guns spins at the penultimate section, right in front of Cameron Sushi, Rosefest catching up. Slow at the exits. Tommy Guns complaining about struggling with rear tires as they round the final sequence. Cricket Sushi losing a little bit of time. Rosefest right behind him as Tommy Guns dives towards the inside to let them through. And Cricket Sushi going through. Rosefest going wide. Cricket maintaining P4 as Rosefest losing a little bit of time. And we have a collision, Tommy Guns and McNeil. Tommy Guns goes spinning, P9. Only right going through. Tommy Guns recovers. Selman Curtis, the lead, right behind. Won't be affected. Sushi maintaining P4 ahead of Rosefest. As Nick Cameron is down the inside, spun out. Selman Curtis setting the new fastest lap, 1:11.6. Sushi charging down to the penultimate sequence. Rosefest right behind them, not being able to make a move. Only right keeping close company as Rosefest runs wide slightly, losing a little bit of time at the exits. Going into the final sequence. Cricket rounding the final corner, having enough of a gap. Going towards the inside wall, weaving to break the draft. As they approach turn 1, Rosefest getting ever so much closer, but not being able to make a move. Only right behind. Looking to take an advantage of track position once they make a mistake, if they make a mistake. As charge into the turn 7 corner, Rosefest loses a little bit of time in the dirty air. Tommy Guns, P9 complaining about damage. As Rosefest a little bit closer this lap, will he be able to make the move? Rosefest diving down the inside, gets past Cricket into the braking zone as he's short ahead. Losing the rear end slightly. Rosefest makes the move. Cricket Sushi staying in close quarters. Going to turn 4. Rosefest a little bit unsteady at the apex. Sushi right behind them. See short right ahead. Hopefully he gets out of the way early enough to not cause any trouble. As C Short pulls out of the way, Lets the two rivals for P4 and P5 by. As behind, Short collides with Only Right. Short losing his position, P11. Dropping a few positions. Recovering. Losing the rear end. When the rear tires get hot, it's difficult to get traction recovering from a spin. Caleb Short learning the hard way. As going down the start-finish straight, quick it's Trushi right behind Rosefest. Going down to turn 1. Close, but no cigar. Dabro, P5, right behind, catching up in the squabble. I see Short comes into the pins once more. Charles Bertrand down the inside. Rosefest running wide slightly. Cricket coming up closely. Dabro catching up as the two battle for position. Caleb Short looking to set fastest lap, putting on the C3 tire as Rosefest locks up. Let's Cricket catch up. Going through the final corners. Cricket close. DRS open. Looking to make a move through turn 1. A little bit too far behind. Fox in P2, 30 seconds down. Catching up Caleb. As Brandon Gobes down to P6, losing a fair amount of time through incidents and pit stops. Cricket Sushi is still close. Dabro catching up within a second. Rosefest getting the clean exit. Cricket with DRS behind. Dabro catching up. Rosefest locking up again. The left runs slightly on the curbing. Runs wide at the exit, loses a little bit of time. Cricket staying close. Dabro catching up, ever closer. Dabro doing an extra 10 laps on Cricket, on tires, as they go towards the inside wall to avoid the draft, weaving on those straights. Rosefest taking turn 1 extremely slowly on his worn tires. Dabro catching up, 3/10 behind Cricket. Taking a much wider line than the rivals in front of him. Gets a good exit right behind Cricket. Looking to get up to turn 7. Is he close enough to make a move? A little bit too far behind. Goes around the outside line. Not able to pull off the move. Approaching turn 8, turn 9. Needing to slow down to rotate the car. Rosefest loses a little bit of time at the apex, allowing Cricket to close up. Dabro losing a bit of time. Cricket with a good exit. Can he get close enough with DRS? Rosefest getting good traction, deploying his ERS as they approach the penultimate sequence. Rosefest going very slowly, really struggling with his tires as he runs wide, allowing Cricket to come alongside him going into the final corner, but uses ERS properly, gets the position. Cricket right behind him, very close behind, goes down the inside, and Cricket gets the position and DRS. Rosefest right behind, trying to ERS past him. Rosefest diving down the inside, but can make the move stick as Dabro goes around the outside. Looking to punish Rosefest for a mistake at the penultimate corner. Locking up the rears, going into turn 4, now turn 5. Dabro taking a much wider line than Rosefest. Rosefest looking to stay close, but Dabro really close behind to Rosefest this time. Going down to turn 6, turn 7 now. Not enough room to make a move. Dabro sticking close. as Rosefest runs wide once again, struggling at the slow speed apexes. His hard tires not working at this stage in the race, as Dabro runs wide, loses a little bit of time at the exit. Cricket also losing the touch. Rosefest catching up to him. As Dabro loses time, Dabro messing up, losing a little bit of time to Cricket and Rosefest. Gap now 1.5 seconds. Catching up closer, leader is on his final lap. Salman Curtis rounding out the final corner, catching up to the battle for third. Curtis running a fairly uneventful race. Charles Bertrand spinning down the start-finish straight. Gets out of the way. Fox only now crossing the start-finish line. As Elegance goes flying down the start-finish straight, comes back to the pits. Sushi going through the penultimate section. Rosefest right behind him. Sushi rounding out the corner for the penultimate lap. Staying in front. Rosefest not being able to make up any time. Dabro right behind with DRS going around the outside of Rosefest. Dabro goes up to P4 momentarily. As Curtis wins the race, Dabro making up the position on Rosefest. Selman Curtis winning the race. Nick Cameron final time 3-second penalty. As Rosefest losing time with his with his hard tires. Dabro catching up really close to Cricket Sushi. Cricket keeping a slightly wider line, runs wide, losing a little bit of time. Kieran Fox crosses the line for P2. As position 3, Cricket catching up. Dabro looking to make a move, not close enough. Runs wide slightly. Rosefest right behind. Catching up close, going through the final sequence. Cricket breaks very early through there, trying to destabilize Dabro. As Dabro really close at the exit. Will he get DRS? Will he be able to get across the line? DRS open side by side, going across the line, and they crash. Dabro P3, Rosefest P4, as we see Charles Bertrand upside down. Rosefest crashing P4, Cricket Sushi P5. Collision as they cross the line. The final positions, Salman Curtis with P1 and fastest lap. Position 2, Kieran Fox. Position 3, Dabro. Rosefest, P4. Cricket Sushi with a collision as they cross the line, P5. Brandon Gobes losing time midway through the race with a slight running wide moment. P6, Zetrov, P7, Nick Cameron, P8. Tommy Guns, disappointed after being so high up early on, struggling with the rear end, P9. P10, only Rye, outside of the points. Leg Smith, Liam McNeil, Caleb Short, Elegance, Bertrand, and Lord Raptor. Did not finish Parmingerson, Zecora, Yardmeet, and Miguel Soto. Congratulations for all the drivers for driving so close and driving decently cleanly, not requiring a safety car the entire race. This race has been presented by Driver 61. Tune in next week at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the next race at Baku. The intense street circuit with very high top speeds and collision rates extremely high, one of the highest on the actual F1 calendar. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I will see you then. I have been Eric Durace.